Once again, thank you all for joining us. This is Nuance. As always, I'm Mike Scala, and we will be talking about the ballot questions on the ballot in New York in a few minutes. But of course, we are joined by Jay Carter, also known as Timid, the hip hop artist and the chair of BLM Tokyo. What's going on, Jay?
Oh, same old, early morning. But it's all right. Not bad.
Mornings in Japan. How's the weather out there right now?
You know what? It's actually not too bad. It's a little chilly, but it's slightly warmed up over the past couple of weeks. So been doing that and then getting a bunch of work done because I'm preparing for another trip up to Tokyo next week to guest speak at Temple University.
Okay.
So getting that stuff together.
Well, there you go. Sounds good. Of course, you're in Japan, joining us live from New York. We've got our friend Khairul Kukon of the American Bangladeshi Community Development, or ABCD for short. How are you, Khairul?
Good. Thank you for having me. Nice seeing you, brother.
Yes, you as well. So we're going to talk about all the things that you're into, but we usually start off with something on the light side. Jay, you got anything on the light side this week?
On the light side, there was a poll a couple of weeks back that came out that said that the New York accent was the least attractive in the world.
Yeah, I saw that.
Attractive.
I take offense to that.
You take offense?
Yeah, the least attractive in the world. Come on now.
Who are you gonna throw under the bus?
When I go out of state, people like my accent. I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know. Like they said, I think the Australian accent was supposed to be the most attractive.
Attractive, yes.
Do they poll mostly Aussies?
I see it, yeah, but I don't agree at all, to be honest.
Right.
I think the poll was done by a group in Australia, so I guess it doesn't.
Oh, come on.
Come on now.
It just so happens that they're number one.
Right?
What a coincidence.
What a coincidence.
Yeah. Oh, but wait a minute.
Who was polled?
Hold on. No, hold on. This looks like this was the survey took into account the opinions of 1,000 Americans.
Only Americans.
Specifically asking their perceptions of different accents using audio samples from George Mason University. So Americans are the ones that said that New York was the worst. The top 8 were Canadian. What was it here? The most repulsive one in the world was New York. Boston was number 2, and then the top 8 was Canadian, American Southern, Spanish, German, and the Yorkshire accent.
These are the most attractive according to this?
No. These were the most repulsive.
Top 8 infamous. Okay.
Yeah. On the flip side, Australian was considered the most attractive, followed by Scotland, London, Ireland, France, Italy, Wales, and Birmingham. So basically, no one liked the way Americans speak in general.
Wow, crazy.
When I leave New York, people always tell me, say coffee again, say dog again. So,
but are they liking it or are they mocking you?
No, they like it.
You know what's funny, guys? Because I have a lot of family in London, and every time when I go to London, like the town you guys said, Birmingham, every time when I go over there, they love the New York accent. Yeah. They like literally, they attach me to the couch. They like, Kukon, just talk, say anything you want, because keep on talking. They love it. And now they voting against us.
You know, I think like in that situation, it's kind of like it's for them, TV and media made real. Like I hear this on TV now. Someone is live in person speaking it. Yeah, say it again. I love it. This is great. Yeah.
Right. But then they go and betray us in this poll.
Well, this looks like Americans are the ones that did the voting on this.
Right. But okay. When you leave New York, though, even within America, I think there are people influenced by media, right? Because even media in the US is New York dominant. And of course, there are regional media markets, but the big media, right? And I think people are attracted to it. I'm sure there are people who don't like it, but hasn't been my experience. But
And
then
then
tell me my accent isn't as strong as some others, so I don't know.
right, that's what I was gonna say. Like there are varying degrees of the New York accent. Like people in Long Island, don't sound the same as like people in like certain parts of Brooklyn or New York or
Right.
Queens.
Yeah, there's definitely a Brooklyn accent, Queens accent. I guess Long Island and Queens might be a little similar, but there are definitely regional dialects within New York.
Right. Yeah.
So maybe they're showing them the worst of us. I want to hear the sample. Who's representing New York in this poll?
It's like everybody from like probably or like maybe really strong like what was that reality show?
Was it Sylvester Stallone's accent?
What was that reality show out of New Jersey?
Jersey Shore?
Jersey Shore? Maybe there was like something strong like that
Probably.
they were showing.
Probably.
So.
I actually heard a long time ago that when people studied to become newscasters, they tried to get them to speak like people in Omaha, Nebraska, because that was supposedly the most neutral accent in the country. Right.
Yeah. Like, I mean, if you're in the Midwest and you go probably up a little bit too north, then you get into like a mix of that Canadian and what is that? That Wisconsin type of thing.
Minnesota.
Right. And you go a little bit too south and you start to creep into the southern type of accent. So yeah.
Go too north and the Alps become oots.
Yeah. So
interesting. I demand a recount on that.
I'll have to redo that poll somewhere.
Absolutely.
So what's going on with you, Khairul? I know you're busy with ABCD. What's been happening lately?
Lately, we just had the Bengali election. If I can explain to you briefly. Okay. Like how back in the days the Italian community had here in Ozone Park, where it's the community it's based in here in New York, but it's for the people of the county of Sylhet. Okay, let's say I'm from New York City, but I'm from Ozone Park. I'm from Sylhet, but I'm from Bieni Bazaar. Mm-hmm. So, long story short, we had about 5,000 to 6,000 people voting on 101st Avenue and 88th Street, Majestic Party Hall. The election just finished this past Sunday, and as a two party panel. One party had 19 candidates, and the other party had 19 candidates. This group of people, what they do is they do community work. Let's say somebody in the community dies and is from that county, Bieni Bazaar. So if that particular family is not well off, or if they need any rental help, if they need any funeral help, any kind of help in terms of difficulty, this organization has substantial amount of money in their account where they come out and help.
Oh. Are you saying that there are people now who are living in New York who are elected to represent specific counties in Bangladesh?
No, people from Bangladesh, people from that county live in New York, Ozone Park.
Right.
It's a little tricky, but let me explain again. People, yes, they're from New York. They're from Bangladesh, yes, but they can't live in New York, Ozone Park.
They're living in New York.
Yes.
And they were elected now. Yes. To represent their home county? Is that what it is?
Yes. But those people reside in New York.
Yes.
Everybody. Yes. Correct. So it was a good turnout. One panel won. Obviously, one panel lost. It was a great turnout, and the new committee will come in before the New Year's, and hopefully it brings a lot of good stuff to the community in terms of new funeral homes and new cemeteries. They're working on a new workshop, a new building they're going to buy on the 77th Street, 101st Avenue. They already have one. They're also looking for another one they want to buy. So these things are in the works.
Okay. Now, was this ABCD that put this on, or would you just
No. This is Bieni Bazaar. Bieni Bazaar Association of America USA Inc. But yes, ABC was part of helping them yesterday. Correct.
Okay. Excellent.
We aligned with the 102 precinct. Also, cop CP was there also helping the police, the 102nd precinct, the 106th precinct, because there was a huge crowd, long line. So we were there to make sure that their people were able to vote, go inside, and there were no trouble in the lines.
Shout out to Cop CP. We've had Danny as well as Ali on here before. So how often are these elections? Are they every year, every few years?
It's every few years, every 2 years, every 2 years.
Okay.
And there are about 7,000 voters. And yesterday turnout was about 4,375.
Wow.
Okay.
So a lot of responsibility that they're getting.
Oh yeah. Oh yes.
But now, is there one person for every county? Is that how it works?
No. It's basically it's like Democrat and Republicans, but they have just panel A and panel B. Each panel has 19 candidates.
19 candidates. Yeah.
Yes, 19 candidates. So a panel A won. There's 16 candidates won. Panel B, 3 candidates won.
Right.
So in total, 19 candidates come out. But it was, from both panels.
Right. But you were saying though that they represent their home counties in Bangladesh, right? So
No.
is there one per county or no?
No, they represent, although they are from that part of town in Bangladesh, but and I'm going to clear up for the people that are watching. They are living in New York.
I understand that.
And all the work is, everything is done. New York, exactly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I thought you were saying though that they were responsible for their own, like if something were to happen in their home county, they would be like the point person to handle that.
Oh yeah, yes, Mike. That too. Let's say when COVID happened or flooding happens, people in New York would gather up from the county, would raise money or go out there, give supplies, mask or whatever it is. They'll come together, raise money. Let's say somebody dies from that county in New York.
Yeah.
They will pay for all the expense for the funeral, to sending the body back home.
Right. But it's for the people in the communities in New York.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So it's like a, kind of a local coalition, so to speak, to help the communities that's living in New York but they're from Bangladesh, but they're living in New York.
Sir. Yes, sir. Correct.
Yeah, because coming to a new country can be difficult for immigrants, and so it's good to have people in your community that are just looking out for others around with help, or like I said, maybe some financial stuff or information type of thing.
Yes. And they do have a community help desk, which they did have it. And this organization has been established since 1988, and now is each day by day it's growing. 1988 they had 300 people, and today is over more than 10,000 people. It has dramatically grown in numbers. They bought a building on 101st Avenue at 77th Street, and they are expanding day by day, and they want to go into helping people in terms of behind rent and so forth.
And this is like all through donations?
Yes, sir. All through donations. Yes.
That's pretty good. It sounds similar, like I don't know if they do it as much these days, but in the 60s and 70s, when the Black Panthers would form these community initiatives and raise money to help people in the community that might need something, or they point out an issue, and they would, they had the food kitchens, and they had all these types of things. It's like basically community looking after community, so to speak.
Correct. Yes, that's the proper way to say it. Correct.
Now, does the Ozone Park and East New York City line area have the highest concentration of Bengalis anywhere in the U.S.?
Yes. Today, actually, very good. Today I was in Brooklyn, Church Avenue and McDonald's. They have great amount of Bengalis in that community also, in Brooklyn, by near Coney Island. There's a massive Bengali community over there. I was there today. I was on my lunch break from work. I had to go inspect a house, and I stopped by for lunch. And I believe they are probably the most intense Bengali populated community in New York City, Church McDonald's in Brooklyn.
Okay.
All right, wait. You stopped in for lunch in a Bengali community,
Yes.
and you went to McDonald's.
No. It's on McDonald's Avenue.
It's on
Oh,
McDonald's.
okay. I was gonna say there's gotta be much better food than McDonald's.
No. No. It's on McDonald's Avenue. To clarify, it's on McDonald's and Church Avenue.
You know,
Okay.
on that topic, Jay, there was a halal truck in Howard Beach, and it left Howard Beach, and I'm missing it. I was driving around yesterday trying to find it. I went to South Ozone Park to get my halal fix.
Right. Well, let me ask you this question here. Are you from Bangladesh?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so where can you find the better food, in Bangladesh or in the Bengali community in New York? Since you're talking about food.
Come in Ozone Park. We have various restaurants here in Ozone Park City Line. We have, from spice to mild to sweetness. You can get all the flavor you like right here.
Better than Bangladesh?
Excuse me, sir?
Better than Bangladesh?
I wouldn't say that, but very close. Yeah, very close. Yeah, you're very close.
There you go.
All right. Since you brought up food, I had to ask.
Sure. Oh yeah.
I haven't had breakfast yet. It's morning over here, so food's on my mind now.
Whenever you're in the States, you're more than welcome, Jay.
Okay, for sure.
There were efforts to get a cricket field. I know cricket is big in the community. Have you heard anything about that lately?
Yes, in terms of the cricket field, what happened was that 2024 and New York is hosting it. So initially they had the plan to have it in the Bronx, but the Bronx Community Board went against the plan to have it in the Bronx. They had the stadium. They had the stadium. You know what? I can't even pronounce that word. ICHA. I can't even. I can't. I have such a hard.
Icon, is it?
Yeah, Icon Stadium. Somewhere in that part of Bronx. But the community board they didn't approve it. So now it's happening in Long Island, Jericho, Long Island, Roslyn. So 2024 cricket will happen in the US, but it's going to be in Long Island, Jericho, Roslyn. You have various fields in Long Island. So it's going to be in Long Island.
Okay. And do you happen to know what's going on with Baghdis?
Baghdis, I'm not too sure because I've been very busy with my work and other stuff that I'm doing. I'm not really sure what's going on. But yeah, I haven't seen the president. I seen the president of Baghdad Sunday at the election center, but I'm not really aware of what's actually happening.
They provided a lot of services to the youth in the community, right?
I'm sorry?
They provided a lot of services for the youth.
Oh, yes. Can I elaborate on? Baghdad is, how do I put it? Baghdad, we were little kids. We had no clue what community board was, what community board was, what organization was. We didn't have anybody to teach us, So I want to give all the credit. I mean, I'm not sure if people are watching on here, or maybe they will later on. We have to give the credit, especially Bengalis living in the vicinity of Ozone Park City Line, and that Misbah Abdin has done so much for the community. It is unprecedented. When he started Baghdad, we had no clues about food pantries. We had no clues about grants. We had no clue about Howard Beach and the Italian community and the African American community and the Hispanic community. All these communities that we're aligned today, we had no clue.
Your audio went out.
I think we lost your audio there.
Khairul, are you with us? We can see you. We can't hear you.
Yeah. Wait,
you're back.
There we go.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. So last thing we heard was that you weren't in touch with all the other communities around you.
Yes. Yeah. So through Baghdad, so many communities came to our community. We welcomed them. They welcomed us. So many other avenues opened up, and that's why I think sitting here in 2023 here in Ozone Park City Line, we are. We know so many other communities that we're allowed with because of backlist, because Ms. was able to bring so many resources into the community. Even the precincts, the captain, we didn't know who the captain was, to be honest. Let's be real. So all these agencies, all the precinct council meeting, all the community board meetings, all these outreaches were done through backlist and Alaman Mosque on 4 Bell Street. They used to come there. So bit by bit, we learn from backlist, and we're taking it slowly as we go on.
Absolutely. And it's really good to have that link between the community and the power structure, if you want to call it that, the elected officials. When I grew up in my communities, people didn't even know who their city council member was,
oh, yes,
who the assembly was, or any of that stuff. But you go into some of these immigrant communities, I know especially true in the Hispanic communities. You go up in, uptown, Inwood, and they're much more tuned in to their local officials.
Oh, yeah, very.
It's a necessity, right? Because they're oftentimes new immigrants to the country. They might get something in the mail that scares them. What is this? I don't know. There's a language barrier there.
Oh, yeah.
So they'll take it to their local elected official. It becomes a much more important role, I think, in the community than in some of these other areas where we take it for granted.
Yes. Exactly like you said, Mike, Mr. Scala. So much language barriers. So many people got, even people that were struggling, they couldn't even apply for a regular food stamp. They had to go into backlist. Backlist was an avenue where you get a medical form. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So all the people couldn't read and write. So yes, backlist played a dramatic role in helping people and changing their lives. And today we are a much better community where we stand than we were 10 years ago.
Absolutely. So shout out to Ms. Bush, shout out to everyone doing that great work, including yourself in the community. I know you're also involved with the Lions Club, right? We'll see you at the meetings there too.
Yes. I'm also, I was actually, initially I started Lions with East New York Lions Club. And then, now I aligned with Sam Esposito. He welcomed me. He said, come join me. I said, why not? Most of my activities are here in Ozone Park and City Line. So, I already know about the Lionism. And Lionism it's all about your work, your heart. You want to give that extra time that when a senior needs. We have a lot of seniors in Ozone Park. I mean, we have a Lion chat group. A lot of time we have so many seniors in Ozone Park. They live on their own. They can't go to their medical appointment. A lot of them are on medication. They run out of medication. Their phone is not charged. They cannot make a phone call to the pharmacy. So many, a lot of seniors cannot get out of the house. They cannot shop. So these things we try to, COVID time. This I'm not gonna disclose the name. This is a senior person, from the Hard Beach community, and she was all by herself. We shopped for her. We bought medicine for her. And she didn't know us from a hole in the wall, but she welcomed us. But she was like literally attached to a bed. We went in, we cleaned her up, we gave her food, we gave her medicine, all the stuff she loves pasta, so we spiced it up, and with pasta was Bengali spice and pasta mixed together.
Pasta, yeah. That sounds good.
Yeah. So we try to help. We're trying every single day to change lives, but it takes baby steps.
Yeah, but a small difference can go a long way, right?
A long way, absolutely.
If you can inspire others to follow suit, now you have a lot of people each doing something small, which adds up.
Yes, absolutely. You yourself, Mike, you are a great contributor to the community, and you're a very, very knowledgeable person, and we welcome you to your community. We respect your knowledge, and thank you for bringing us to this platform today.
Of course. Thank you. One time you called me, I think, an Italian Bengali, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Remember, yeah.
We were on an ABC newscast once because there were incidents happening, if you recall, around the violence in the area. And one of the issues that was raised was that many of the victims were afraid to call the police because they might be afraid about their immigration status being questioned or whatever. And we were trying to put that information out to the people that the police were not allowed to ask about that. And you shouldn't be afraid to report being victimized, because what was happening is people would know that there were people who would be afraid to call the police, and they would victimize that population because they thought they can get away with it.
Yes, even till today, Mike and Jay, we have our biggest problem. I see that I don't want to sound, I don't want to over exaggerate things, but people are very scared, and they don't understand the fact that, look, it doesn't matter if your status is not legal in the country. NYPD, they are not going to ask you for your legal status. They, the bill has passed. They're not allowed to ask for your legal status. Whatever the crime happened at the current situation, they should take care of it, and it's up to the judge to do, what he or she has to do. Mm-hmm. So, in that notion, my point is that, especially people that live in this vicinity of Cityland Ozone Park, they're very they don't like drama. They don't like calling the police and going through the whole procedure. They're very afraid because and look, they work 8, 10, 15, 12 hours a day. They come home crash a lot of them work in the restaurant field in the city. They're coming home 2 or 3 in the morning. A lot of them driving cab. They coming home 4 or 5 in the morning. And imagine you're working all day, and by the time you get home, you get robbed. You know what I mean? Right. So, especially summer times, it happens a lot. It happens a lot. People get smacked around. Their phones get taken. They get robbed at gunpoint. Like this year, we had so many situations, so many incidents that happened. So many people got robbed at gunpoint. And even after getting robbed at gunpoint, they don't want to report it. They're scared. So these things we're trying to work with, like these things we're slowly working on, like Baghdad, like ABCD, like the Bien Bazaar Society that had the election on Sunday. These are the forefront association where we're placing offices in each block where we can mentor them, we can welcome them, any kind of help they need. It's free. The help is free. You don't have to pay for anything, So we're working with our people, even if somebody comes from Bangladesh to New York, before they land in JFK, their job is ready, their apartment is ready. That's why we're trying to hit at.
It sounds. Let me ask you this here, and you touched on it, and Mike touched on it as well, as reporting incidences like that, or even having a connection with the police, can be intimidating. As anyone in America, as a brown person in America, as an immigrant in America, regardless, whether your status is one way or the other, or just in general, how do you communicate that to the people there that, you should be reporting this, you should take that step? One, they're not going to comment on your status, or they shouldn't comment on your status. There shouldn't be any sort of repercussions or problems. How do you get people to get past that fear and apprehension of doing it?
You talking to me? Yeah. See, what happened is that now it's actually people are stepping up, because where we did a little survey why people are not reporting. What happened is that 10, 15 years from now, our seniors were leading us, right? But our seniors had language barriers. They didn't know the captain of the 7-5 precinct. They didn't know the captain of the 102 or the 106. The 1.5, 2 mile radius that we live in. They had no connection, or our seniors didn't know English enough to explain the situation. So we lacked in that. Now, our young kids are going to school, they're educated, they're going out, they're smart, they have the direct contact to the captain. We're joining with other organization. We're building our organization. The youth are much more active now. They're very active and going places, learning new things, involved in the community, a diverse community. It doesn't matter if you're Black, Spanish, Muslim, white, Chinese. It doesn't matter what you are. We're getting involved in other communities and other ethnicities. That's why the aspect of not going to the police is actually slightly is lower than before. You know what I mean? Now people
it's decreasing basically with another generation of assimilation, basically.
Yes, correct, exactly. Yes.
And there are a few points I think on that. Number one is it isn't only a matter of perpetrators victimizing these communities because they know that they're less likely to call the police. It's also a matter of when the community wants to come in and demand more resources, for example, more police presence, or maybe even more lighting or cameras in a certain area, security by the trains, whatever it is. It's hard to justify that type of response without the data to back it up, because they'll come back at you and they'll say, well, the data shows no crime is happening here because it's not being reported or it's being underreported. Right. And so if it actually is a serious problem, you need the numbers to back that up, because that's how you get the resources that you want to address the problem. But the other thing I'll say on that is it would be really helpful if the NYPD changed its policy to allow officers to serve their own precincts. Right now, they're not allowed to, right? And there's been a movement to try to change that.
Yeah.
Khairul, has that been part of the advocacy at all? I know that they had said that there was a concern that if you lived where you worked, you could be victimized or targeted, or I think they raised issues of possible corruption. I don't know. They always seem to have some flimsy excuses as to why they didn't want officers working where they lived.
Yeah, because of conflict of interest. They still have that. You can't work with a certain mile radius of where you live.
Right.
They still. I mean, I never, Mr. Scala, you're an attorney, and you would know more about this than I would. I always thought that it would be more useful for the community. If somebody lives in the community, they would understand the community more. They can do more. Their work could be more productive than somebody come from away from Babylon, Long Island, coming into Ozone Park. He has no clue about Ozone Park or the community, how it runs. You know what I mean?
Right.
And he has to go through the whole training process, and it takes another 6-8 months for him to learn. You get me? So I mean, I don't know what the NYPD's they're thinking behind this, but obviously they have their reasons. But I don't get it. Why can't somebody live in
I'm with you on that. And hopefully at least there could be more Bengali officers coming up who could be assigned to those precincts, even if they don't live there, right? Because you said there are other areas. Maybe they can come from the other part of Brooklyn and serve our precinct here.
Yeah, I mean,
Sorry.
There are definitely things that they should know. If you're going into communities, especially in I wouldn't say immigrant communities, who might also bring a culture with them from their home country that might not be familiar to people that's not from that community. And so that interaction that the police officer might have, might be a case of misunderstanding if they don't really understand the community that they're in.
Yeah. And the people in the community would feel more comfortable if they could speak the same language as the officer and they share those same cultural values.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. One thing I forgot to add, sorry, Mike.
Okay.
I forgot to add that Sam Esposito, from the president of the Ozone Park Block Association, for the past election, he helped us dramatically, calling the precinct and making sure everything was okay. So yes, I want to touch on Sam a little bit later on that he did for the community, but I just want to, because so I don't forget. But I'll come back to Sam's story later on.
Okay. Well, we're going to move on to the other topics in a minute here. So whatever else you wanted to say on this, go right ahead.
Okay. Yes, Sam. Yes, Sam Esposito is the president of the Ozone Park Block Association. He has helped us break a lot of barriers in the community. Especially vast majority of the community here in Howard Beach, Cross Bay is Italian community, and us on this side, Bengali community. The bridge between us, before, I don't know how to. I don't want to sound. I don't want to sound off, but we were going to Cross Bay and going to Howard Beach was like, should we go there? Should we not go there?
Yeah.
That stigma was always there. And, guys like Mike Scala, guys like Sam Esposito, these guys broke barriers for us, welcoming us into the community. We welcome to them to our community. So this makes us very, very much stronger. And, especially Sam, Mike, you guys help us with so many things, especially when we used to block the streets for Eid prayers.
Yeah.
And so many, during COVID, we gave out hundreds of thousands of foods on the streets, all these things that we do as a community, guys like Mike Scala, guys like Sam Esposito, you guys are the breaking the bridges of the two communities, coming together and living in a society where we can do better things together.
Absolutely. I'm glad you say that. That's always been a goal of mine, really, to help build those bridges. We love to celebrate Queens being the most diverse county on the continental US, but the unfortunate reality is that it does happen to be very segregated. Even still, I think we would do well to build more of these bridges and integrate, come together, right? We're stronger together than we are apart. If we're truly to celebrate our diversity, let's go out and celebrate our diversity instead of celebrating it in our own little bubbles, right? Let's be diverse.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, it's a great discussion on what's going on locally. Once again, Khairul, I commend you for everything that you're doing in the community as well. I know you're
thank you.
On the real estate side, right? You do some big things there too in business. So keep up all the great work. Jay, I know that we've got poll results to go over, and then we wanted to talk about the ballot measures, right?
Yeah, so we had the poll last week, and the poll question last week was, do you believe that the New York City Council member who brought a gun to a protest should lose her seat in the city council? This is talking about Councilwoman Inna Vernikov.
Yes.
That Ukrainian immigrant. She had been an opponent of Palestinian rallies. She went to a pro-Palestinian rally and brought her gun with her, which is illegal in New York. And we went over last week about the different places where carrying a gun is not allowed, even if you are licensed in New York, and college campuses is definitely one of those places.
Right. And also any place where a protest is happening is one of those places.
Right. And so the poll question, the results, we had 76% yes, that she should lose her seat, 19% no, and about 5% I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what happens with that, right? If she gets convicted of a felony, the seat is gone. Right.
And someone did bring up that I guess she's also up. This matter is kind of moot, they said, because she's up for a vote on November 7th. So the voters could take care of that. But I mean, if she is voted back in,
it doesn't make it moot, right? It could make it moot, I guess, if she loses.
Right. There was another comment that was on the no side that said she shouldn't lose her seat because of this. There are a few reasons. These are one of the few reasons why New York lost so many of these seats, because if you throw her out, we'll lose more. People are afraid of crime and unknown people hanging out everywhere. They equate the two and think we're weak and helpless. So yeah.
Saying that throwing her out would cause more of a backlash against Democrats?
That's what they're saying. Because it's kind of well, some people look at it as a gun rights issue, right? Like, she was legal with it. She's carrying it. We have the right to bear arms. We can do, and so if you're throwing her out for exercising her gun rights, then, you're going to incur more backlash. But, as we brought up, she's an elected official. She should, her, or at least someone in her circle should have said, hey, this is not legal, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah, and that's kind of the larger issue here. If you really zoom out, do we want people in office who are out here committing felonies? Because this is a felony.
Right. Right. So, yeah, interesting, but there were, still people who did side with her.
Yeah, but you
or at
saw,
least-
what about 3/4 saying that she should be out?
Right. About 3/4 said, yeah, 76% said, yeah, she should lose her seat for that.
Okay.
So any opinions on that? What's your opinion on that?
Me, Jay?
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, to the highest extent. She should be expelled right away. I'm not sure why it taken so long. Absolutely, she had no right. Although yes, she had the license to carry the gun, but nobody's above law. And you shouldn't if you're not part of the NYPD, you shouldn't be exposing a gun, meaning that you intended to intimidate somebody or scare of somebody. So we want to look at the intent of her exposing. So I mean, my opinion, she should be expelled right away. Should not be given a second chance. They should vote her out right away, immediately. I know she was arrested at 3 a.m. in Brooklyn at the 70th precinct. Hopefully this could come to a closure very soon.
Yeah, no, I guess that would be the delay, right? Just to allow the due process.
Right.
Yeah, because now this is a criminal proceeding.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Right. She was charged with criminal possession of a firearm. So yeah, they're gonna, again, yeah, she's got her due process.
It unfortunately doesn't work quite that fast in terms of someone being convicted, right? And we don't know if she pleads down, let's say, to a misdemeanor, then she wouldn't automatically lose the seat, but she could still be voted out, so.
Especially at this time where our country is, in a hostile. She was observing a pro-Palestine protest, and just the intent of it, she should be expelled from city council body.
Yeah, she didn't have any, I mean, we have rallies and people show up to counter protest rallies, and that's our right to do so. But to go there and to bring a firearm was unnecessary. And as we mentioned last week, like if you think that going there is going to be the chance of violence to where you need to bring your gun, then you shouldn't go there in the first place. Like, you have that option.
Exactly. So it's the intent again. The intention.
Release a statement. Release a statement. Put it on your social media. I oppose this, that. You don't have to show up there with a gun. It's kind of, in my opinion, it's kind of performative. In that regard.
I mean, New York issues permits on carrying concealed firearms only. Openly carrying a firearm is not allowed.
Yeah. So. But that was the results. That's what the people thought.
All right. Speaking of what the people think, the people are going to have an opportunity to vote on 2 ballot questions, amendments to the state constitution here in New York. And quite honestly, even as an attorney reading them, they're a little confusing unless you really spend time to go through them. And that concerns me as someone thinking about how this plays out. When your average voter goes to vote, I don't think most people, unless they really take the time beforehand, are going to know what they're voting on.
Right. Yeah. Looking at the ballot measures, just looking at the language, I mean, it's really written in a way that a lawyer might understand. And then even still, it assumes certain things as well. You know?
The lawyer might understand if he squints or she squints, but
right. Like, I mean, extend sewage project debt exclusion from debt limit. Like, the average citizen is not going to understand what that means. And so for them to vote on that, I do have kind of an issue without it being explained better.
Now, this is proposal number 2, the sewage one.
Right.
That one is actually a little bit more straightforward, even though that's a little confusing in itself, right? But they're talking about the constitutional debt limits for the construction of sewage facilities. And so if this were to be approved, then the debt limit would not apply to these sewage projects, right? There would be an exclusion for these sewage projects, which would, at least on paper, help with infrastructure, right? It would allow counties, cities, towns, and villages to get their sewage facilities constructed without being obstructed by the debt limit.
Right. And I think that for the average voter, even that would have to be explained as far as what does the debt limit mean in this regard, right? What is it that they're being blocked from doing with this debt limit? How are they taking on debt? How is that explained as far as debt? Like, are these loans, are these or whatever it is that they're doing? Like, you know.
Well, I think we can look at it just in terms of there is a limit to the amount of debt that can be taken on prescribed by law, right? And so without this exclusion, it could be possible where a local government might want to construct a sewer system, but not be able to because they're already up against their debt limit. And so they wouldn't be able to afford it. And the law would not allow them to take on the debt necessary to build it. And so effectively, you would not have your sewers constructed in these areas. And that could be a problem.
Right.
But of course, people have financial concerns, right? And that's what I see also when I ask people, when I look at opinions on this, they're saying, well, all these things are done to basically excuse higher taxes, right? Because now you're saying that they can borrow more money, they can incur more debt. Well, what's that going to mean? It's going to fall on us ultimately. So there are some people who vote no on all these proposals without reading them because they think it just results in higher taxes.
Right. I mean, yeah. And so let's look at the first one here. And that was it removal of small city school districts from special constitutional debt limitation.
Right. And so you have to know, so before you even get into that, you have to know that there is already a constitutional debt limitation on city school districts. I mean, who would really know that, right? Unless you're a lawyer who points. No one really, the average person is not going to know about
Wouldn't know that, yeah.
So and so then you have to look at the definition of even what is a small city school district, right? I mean, because that could be in a number of things also. And so there are all these definitions. Let's see.
This says a small city is a city with less than 125,000 people.
No, 125,000. Is that what you said?
I thought so. Did I mess that up? 125,000 people, and the state constitution limits that they cannot take more debt. Debt cannot be more than 5% of the value of taxable real estate in the district.
But to qualify as a small city school district, the district has to include any part of that small city. So it doesn't have to be the whole city, or the district doesn't have to be just that city. It's a district that includes any part of a small city, which is a city with less than 125,000 people. But this is also kind of tricky, right? Because what's a city? We know New York is a city. We know New York is not a small city. It is a city, but then you start getting into, because this is a statewide thing we're voting on, right? You can start getting into upstate, Long Island, other parts of the state. And you have to ask, are you in a city or not? For example, Long Beach on Long Island is considered a city. A lot of other parts on Long Island are not, right? People who live in these areas sometimes don't even know this.
Right. So it seems here that it says other districts are not subject to this debt restriction, but have different limitations by law. And some state law says their debt can't be greater than 10% versus the 5% for these small cities.
Right.
So it's, if I'm not mistaken, they're looking to bring the small cities up to that 10% marker that other cities have to abide by. Right.
They're trying to allow the small city school districts to be treated the same as every other school district. And again, it's not only big city school districts, right? The distinction isn't just small city versus big city, because you might not be dealing with the city at all. So, right, so small city versus other school districts. What if it's just villages, right? What if it's just these areas that aren't considered cities? Those are not part of the small city school district exclusion. So this would basically treat the small city school district like all the other school districts.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that brings up a good point. Like, does this differentiate between city versus village? Like, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm sure you can correct me on this. I lived, when I lived in Valley Stream was village, if I'm not
not a city. Right.
Right. It was Village of Valley Stream, and I think they even said incorporated
It was an
village.
incorporated village, and I think there's a part of it that's not incorporated. There's North Valley Stream. There are other areas of it, but the main part is the incorporated village of Valley Stream, and it does operate a little bit like a city. They've got a mayor and they've got trustees who act like the city council, but it's not a city, and so it wouldn't count as a city in this definition, right?
Right.
You're talking about small cities, and then you can look up New York. I mean, how many small cities are there in New York? For example, how many people live in Long Beach? I don't know. Would Long Beach be considered a small city?
Yeah. So then that makes it, you know, like you said, it makes it difficult for voters to know what it is they're actually voting on.
Yeah. See, Long Beach has a population. Let me see. Oh, I don't know. This doesn't even look right. I see all different stats here. Okay, so it looks like, well, according to Wikipedia, at least, as of 2020, it had 35,000 people approximately. So that would be considered a small city under this definition.
Hmm. Now you brought on some good points on, like, you know, that debt limitation, which could prevent, you know, some of these small cities from taking on projects that they may need, and, you know, that could be the limit could be preventing them from going there. But on the flip side, it's also, do we want to allow these cities to get in more debt than they're able to handle?
Right.
Then the taxpayers are going to be on the hook to bail them out in that regard.
Right. Exactly. That's the main concern with all of these measures, you know. But I think you do have to ask yourself, why is it that small city school districts have this constitutional limitation that the other districts don't? Now, remember, what we're voting on now are amendments to the Constitution of New York. And that kind of writes it in stone a little bit more than legislative action, right? Just regular state law. And that's a distinction here to keep in mind. When you talk about these non-small city school districts that have that 10% cap, that isn't per the Constitution. That's just a state law. And so the legislature can go in and change that number at will, right? Something like this, you would need the people of New York to ratify if you were to change it. And so it is stronger when it's enshrined in our Constitution than if it's just regular law.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's I mean, definitely difficult thing to think. I don't like the idea.
So one way to look at this is, if you were to vote yes on Amendment 1, here, Proposal 1, that would take the small city school district out of the constitutional provision and put it in with that 10%, which is set by law. And so that would be able to be changed more freely by the legislature. Currently it's at 10%, but they can pass it anytime to make it something else. And so you would be taking it out of that constitutional limitation and allowing it to change at will, or at least at the will of the legislature.
Right. Yeah. You know, I understand the how it could free some things up, but the idea of taking on extra debt always makes me a little bit suspicious of things, because someone has to pay that back. Right. And people, you know, kicking the can down the road for paying things back is just not something that is, in my opinion, advisable.
I hear you. But are you saying then that everyone should have the 5%? So instead of allowing these small school districts to get to that 10% or whatever the higher cap would be, would you want to keep that at 5 and bring everyone else down? I mean, how would you handle that?
Yeah. You know, it probably should be similar across the board. So yeah, I guess that's the question. Go up to the 10 or go down to the 5. You know, I wouldn't know.
And then if you look at the full text of this, you see that there are different limits set in different areas. So New York City, it says 10%, Nassau County 10%, and the other county 7%. And so they've got different numbers, and then any town for town purposes 7%, any village for village purposes 7%, and it gets very crazy here. I mean, again,
and I'm sure there's
who's really gonna wrap their heads around all of this, you know,
right.
Unless you're the person in charge of writing it or you're that deep into it. Most people are not going to really know what's going on with any of this.
Right. I'd like to know how any of these towns, villages, or whatever are doing in paying back the debt that they've already incurred. Right. So we mentioned that one thing that could be preventing new projects from going forth is that they're already up against their debt wall. Well, that means that they haven't paid down the debt that they've already incurred. So taking on more debt is just going to saddle the county and the taxpayers with an even greater burden. How are they dealing with the debt that they've got and they've already taken out, and as far as getting rid of that? So, I mean, I know that's not on the ballot, but that's what I would be thinking.
Right. And I think people think about these a few different ways. I think a lot of people just vote yes, right? They don't really think it through. Maybe they haven't even really seen it or considered it much prior to voting. And should a limitation be removed? Okay, sure, sounds good. I think a lot of people just tend to yes as a default if they don't really know. Then you have people on the other side who just are skeptical of any of these changes, and even without knowing what they do, they might say no because they're thinking that it's just another scheme or plan to get more tax money out of them.
Right. Yeah.
So I would suggest everyone read these through, even though it is confusing, even to a lawyer, right? It's confusing. Read as much research as you can on it. Try to have an idea of which way you're going to vote before you go, because I don't think you want to be on election day or whenever you're going to vote and seeing it for the first time, trying to figure it out. It'll be like reading a foreign language, probably.
Absolutely. The extending sewage project to me seems something like I would, I mean, whether or not you've got the budget or not, if sewage is piling up, it's there. It has to be dealt with some way. So,
Right.
It's something very tangible that needs to be handled immediately.
I would think so. And,
me too, definitely.
And the fact that they're going for sewage in particular suggests that there's a concern there, right? Somebody somewhere thinks that something needs to be done about these sewage construction projects. And so I don't think personally that they should be inhibited if we can help it.
Well, the debt exception for this debt limit expires on January 1st, 2024, and they want to extend it for another 10 years.
Right.
So that's what the rush is on this, because it's about to expire, which would mean that they would fall under specific debt limits that right now they're accepted for, which could hinder any projects that are currently in progress or going forward.
Right. It would extend the timeline.
Right. So, and I like the idea of this a little bit more because of it. They're given a specific time. Okay, let's give us 10 more years. Not an indefinite thing. Let's, maybe there's something that's going on right now that needs to be handled or whatnot.
Yeah.
So,
but I do like the fact that the first one removes the constitutional barrier, and it basically puts it all into the legislative hands. It does seem a little unfair that the small city school district in particular had that constitutional debt limitation, whereas no other district did, right?
Right.
So interesting, but read up on these. And of course, everyone should go vote, even if you think that there's no major election happening where you live. You do have this, and it's important that we show the numbers, right? We want to show that our areas have a high turnout, because oftentimes resources, it comes back down to resources, right? Resources are determined sometimes by turnout. People look at that. They look at how many people will vote in an area. It's, part of how you measure the activeness, the vibrancy, how vibrant an area is. And so it's very important that we have those numbers to show. We can put in the chat a poll site locator. I think I put the link in the Zoom, Jay. So for those who need to know where their poll site is, that's a helpful tool. Early voting starts on Saturday, October 28th, and it goes up to Sunday, November 5th. Of course, if you want to vote on your regular election day, it will be the following Tuesday, November 7th. So 2 weeks from tonight.
Okay. You know your poll sites?
I know my poll site.
Yeah. What about Ghost Scala that's in the chat here with us?
I don't know where that goes. Maybe he's just Halloween. I don't know.
He's just staring at us like intimidating with this intimidating glare. Like, yeah, you better vote.
Yeah,
you better vote.
That's right. Everyone go out there and vote. All right. So with the time we have left, and we don't have much time here at all, but we do want to do a poll question for the following week. And to set that up, there was something that happened in California, right? Are they calling this an Ebony alert?
Yeah, so there was a new California law that created the Ebony Alert to find missing Black youth and women. They were looking to find, to address missing persons between the ages of 12 and 25. Now, most people know that, you know, we have the Amber Alert, which is a nationwide alert for missing children. However, in practice, I mean, it's supposed to address missing children, everybody, but in practice, they've found that it's usually not applied across the board in an even manner. More often than not, white children are prioritized over Black children or, you know, children of other ethnic groups. Yeah. And so there was a politician, a state senator in California who proposed this Ebony Alert that will give resources and attention to missing Black children and women in the same way that they're applied to missing children under the Amber Alert. And so it was signed into law by Governor Newsom and supposed to go into effect January 1st. So when it hit social media, there were, you know, of course, mixed reactions. The reaction that I had and many other people, especially that I've seen from the Black community, was, why is this necessary? We shouldn't have to have an Ebony Alert for Black children and women. You should just force the police to follow the law that's already in place. Right. This also can open up the chance that, since it's specifically designated for Black youth and women, that it's another way that they can discriminate on the calls that they're going to actually follow and listen to. So it's like, why would you create a whole new law?
Explain that one. You're saying that could lead to more discrimination?
I think it could be because, you know, first of all, if they're already not following up when it's Black children, they're making different reasons or excuses why they don't go into the system for the Amber Alert already. Then if this comes in and it's a report for a missing child, then they just pass it off to the Ebony thing. They don't even put any attention or anything into it initially because, oh, okay, we're going to move it to a different group.
Right. And right. It reminds me of the whole separate but equal thing, right?
Right.
And
right.
We learn that that's not really equal, right? You can't have separate but equal.
Right.
That's why this raises constitutional questions for me. You know, I always think about that when you're talking about categorizations based on race, you're subject to strict scrutiny, right? Meaning it's presumptively unconstitutional unless the state can prove that it's narrowly tailored to fit a compelling governmental interest. Now, you might have a compelling governmental interest here. And I'll say that in New York, we worked on something similar, although we didn't have a specific law just for Black youth or for any type of ethnicity. But what we did find was that police reports were more often taken when the missing person or when the victim was a white person as compared to a person of color. And that is why I think there is a compelling governmental interest to address this discrepancy. But then you have the question of, is this narrowly tailored? Or in other words, is this the least restrictive means of doing it? Because you don't want to have state-sponsored discrimination or state-sponsored different categories based on race or ethnicity. And so I do think that there are real questions there. Is this the least restrictive way, the least discriminatory way of addressing the discrepancy that does exist? There is that discrepancy. Now, in New York, what we did was we passed the missing adults law, and I actually myself was able to draft the language for it to overcome a veto that it had suffered the year prior to my arrival in Albany. That was done to address, and you can read a sponsor's memo that I drafted, it was done to address in part this discrepancy that when it was optional in New York for police agencies to file a report on a missing adult, they tended to follow up more when it was a white person than when it was not. And so what we said was, now the law is going to say you always have to do it when these factors are met. And essentially it was a reasonable concern for the person's safety, right? When that is there, then the police don't have a choice. It isn't you pick which ones you pursue, you just have to do it. And that was our attempt to meet that compelling interest, right? So if we could do that in New York, then it suggests to me that what they're doing in California isn't necessarily the least restrictive means. I think there are other ways of doing this, of achieving that same goal.
Yeah, I agree. I think, listen, a missing child is a missing child. It shouldn't matter
Regardless,
what
exactly.
they come from,
Yeah.
And, I think the easier way, instead of creating a new law, is to hold law enforcement accountable for how they're failing to address missing children and how they're disproportionately addressing missing children cases. I think that's much better than creating a whole new law. Now, they did go in to talk about how they've had to do this, or I don't know if you can say had to, but they've done this in different cases, right? So they have the feather alert in California for indigenous people in California that was signed into law in 2022. They have a silver alert for seniors. They have a blue alert for missing police officers. And so he was saying, then why is this an issue that we have an ebony alert for African Americans? And yes, I agree. Like we know all of these things are disproportionately affect these communities in different ways, but we're talking missing children here. We have a missing children alert. This isn't for missing white children. This is missing children.
Right.
Doesn't matter if they're white, black,
and
Bengali.
that's right. And that's my question. Why do you need a different color alert for a different type of child? Why not just everyone has to go into the alert system? Why does it have to be, this is going to be a black alert, this is a white alert? I don't understand that part of it.
Right. And what's happening is
that's going to create more division, guys. I believe, it's going to create more animosity. Start to jump in,
No, please.
It's similar to an Amber Alert. That means, similar to an Amber Alert means Ebony Alert would be displayed on across all the television and media, but now because you have a specific name, Ebony, is gonna create more animosity. Is gonna create a lot of division in whoever we're receiving the calls.
Yeah.
What it shouldn't be any specific, color or race, like you guys are saying, a child is a missing child. You know what I mean? We shouldn't specifically say, oh, there's a black child or Indian child or a white child. So these things, I think before, yes, they passed the bill already, but they should have looked into it more, more aggressively, how the outcome is going to be in the long term.
Yeah.
Yes, 39% of 12 to 25-year-old kids are, black kids, but again, we shouldn't have a different specific name for it, that's my opinion. It should be one name protecting us all. It doesn't matter what color you are.
Yeah, and I think, Khairul, you hit on exactly why the Constitution frowns upon different categorizations, different categories or distinctions based on race. The state isn't supposed to do that unless they have a compelling reason and unless it's narrowly tailored, the least restrictive means. But it just, to me, it doesn't seem like that this meets those criteria. So I think that it would be ripe for a constitutional challenge. Now, I don't know, Jay, if we have any information as to whether those other alerts, you said there's one already for indigenous missing people.
Right.
I don't know if that one was challenged constitutionally already. So the one for police officers isn't a racial category, so that's a little different. But we start talking about race. Now, it's possible you might get something like, well, if you put out an alert for missing indigenous people, that notifies the tribes, or there's something in there that works with the people of those communities because maybe they are living in their own areas. I'm not sure, if that's part of it, but that could be more of a compelling reason or more of a justification for why they would do that. But when you start talking about Black people versus white people or Hispanic people or South Asian, any type of ethnicity, I think it's harder to justify unless you have a real practical reason why that's needed.
Yeah.
Well, and listen, don't get me wrong. I understand why, someone might feel that this is necessary, right? Because like you said, we know that in practice, white children going missing is taken more seriously than minority children. We know that's the case in practice. Missing minority children are often labeled as runaways first, which does not trigger the Amber Alert system, right? Missing adults are often minority adults are often labeled as involvement in criminal activity or gangs, which again would not trigger any of these systems.
Mhm.
Whereas a missing white child is going to be more of a ruckus in this case here. I think it also brings up the possibility that if it's going across the screen as it does now, the Amber Alert, right? People perk up, okay, there's a missing child.
Right.
But if it goes across as the Ebony Alert, you're going to have people who do have their biases or whatever and be like, oh, Ebony Alert, that doesn't apply to me. I'm not
right. Well, whatever. They're going to
yes, right. Yes, you're right.
They'll be even tuned in more to it, whatever the case. Either they're going to tune it out, tune it in, but they're going to take note of the fact that it's a Black child, and that's going to be the focus of it.
Exactly.
So try to find this person, and that is a distinction between what we worked on in New York and this, because what we did wasn't just the alert system, and so it was about police departments doing their job, following the reports and pursuing it, right? Uploading the information to the database and taking this seriously. But what they're doing in California is specifically about the alert system. So now you're talking about not just the police doing their job, but the public being notified of it.
Notified, yes.
Right. And correct. So now it's not just a matter of police reports, it's a matter of telling the public, hey, there's a missing Black child to look out for. There's a missing Indigenous child, right? And so I think that adds another layer
to the absolutely. You're right.
Involving the public, and the government is now making racial classifications to the public, and it's not
to
just
the public, exactly.
There's a missing child.
And the public is going to choose if they want to help or not. The public is going to choose if they want to help or not. So that creates an even greater problem than what we have now.
Yeah, government holding itself out in an outwardly discriminatory manner, which I think is troublesome.
Yeah.
And the thing is, what needs to happen is law enforcement need to be held accountable for not following up how they're supposed to. Right? There was a 2020 report that came out by the Congressional Black Caucus that showed that 40% of sex trafficking victims were identified as Black women. All right, and that their Black girls are more likely to be trafficked at a younger age than their racial counterparts, and so that 57 was it Black children make up more than 57% of all juvenile prostitution arrests. So it's a way of people are looking at it, the way people are, these communities are more vulnerable. We talked about that earlier when we were talking about like potentially people in immigrant communities afraid to reach out to police or whatever it is. In this case, or knowing that people could commit crimes against them because they know that they're more vulnerable or ignored. And that's the same thing that's happening with Black children, and specifically Black girls, is sex traffickers are knowing that people aren't looking for these girls as much as they're looking for white girls. So they're going to go to them more often than not. And so we need to make sure the system that's out there, the Amber Alert that's out there, is applied to everyone as the way it should be applied, so that these numbers will go down, not only for people targeting African Americans, but for people targeting minority groups, but for people in general, because children are being looked for. Right.
All right. So we do have to wrap up. I want to put the poll question out for the people, and we can come back next week and give our results. So the poll question of the week is, do you believe there should be a separate missing persons alert specifically for Black youth, as was done in California?
All right. And
people say on that.
Yeah, well, I have my suspicions. The type of people that are going to come out of the woodwork because of the trigger word of Black.
Well, we'll see. Hopefully we get some responses from people across the political and ideological and racial divide, and we can come back with a nuanced discussion next week.
Right. And that's what we try to do here. That's what we hope to do here, is have a nuanced discussion. And we've said it a million times, a lot of these issues, people have similar views. It's the way it's talked about, or that they don't look into it in different ways. And so this type of discussion is really necessary, especially these days in the landscape that's happening out there.
So bottom line,
I think it is. I think in this time, it's not on either one of us. Oh, you have something you wanted to say?
Yes, but before you guys wrap up, I want to thank you, Mike, Scala, and Brother Jay, for having me here today. I just want to say two things quickly. I've been doing housing since 2003. I started as advocacy group. I was a big advocate for the low income family, people that are in affordable housing, people that are in NYCHA apartments, HPD, Section 1, City FEPS, Link 1, Link 2, SOTA program, all these various programs. I was one of the biggest advocates in New York City before, back in the days when they had the Link 1, Link 2, and City FEPS program. They were giving out vouchers. Bill de Blasio administration, I went to all the town halls, and every town hall I fought for people that are receiving this voucher, people with low income. The voucher they were receiving, I'll give you a quick example. A husband and a wife and a child, or a single mother with 2 kids, 1-bedroom voucher will be $1,238. But mind you, 1 bedroom anywhere in New York City right now is $1,600-$1,700. I fought for the low-income family for the voucher to go up to meet the market value rate. Today, 2023, a 1-bedroom voucher is $2,387. It exceeds the market value. Bill de Blasio administration did a great job, and now in terms of putting the bill in City Council, and Adams administration passed the bill, and now all this housing voucher. Last year, 2022, 6,000 people from a shelter moved into regular apartments where they can live a normal life just like me and you. So just to close up on this, that the Eric Adams is doing a great job on these voucher programs where they're expanding. Before it was all within the 5 boroughs of New York City, Queens, Brooklyn, Manhattan, Staten Island. Now it's all in New York State, 62 counties. So the voucher is working very good because the landlords are taking it, because 1-bedroom apartment, they are getting $2,387. They're getting more than the market value. So thanks to the Adams administration for pushing the voucher and expanding it to all 62 counties in New York State. And one quick if anybody is behind rent, if you guys need any help, you can reach out to me. If you're behind 6-8 months rent, you can get the SOTA program that pays for the whole year. You can go to PATH. If you're facing eviction, you can get your rent can be paid up for 5 years. If you guys need any help, you could reach out to me. My number is 347-672-2256. You can go to home base and get City FEPS, so you can move into a regular apartment. Your rent will be paid for 5 years. Or you can go to PATH in the Bronx. PATH is the only intake shelter in New York City that helps you immediately in the Bronx, 151 East 151 Street in the Bronx. If you're being evicted or if you're facing homelessness, they'll help you, or you can call me and we'll help you through the process. In terms of NYCHA, HPD, Section 8, City FEPS, City SOTA, all these various programs, we can help you. And last thing I want to say, this Sunday, we are holding a massive rally, a pro-Palestine rally. I'm not going to go into details. Humanity, kids are being killed every single day. It doesn't matter what religion and culture you are. If one particular organization did harm to one particular group, they should be held accountable, not the whole country, not a 2-year kid that is sleeping, has no clue about what's going on. Here kids are dying every single day, So we are holding a pro Palestine protest here at Ozone Park, City Line, the 75 precinct, 102 precinct, 106 precinct. They are helping us maintain and manage this protest. We're going to start from 4 Bell Street we're going to march to 77th Street and come back to our main point, where we're going to have speakers from all over the city and maybe all over the country. We're going to have a massive rally here in City Line, Ozone Park. Please participate. You don't have to be pro-Palestine. You have to be human. The genocide that's going on in Israel right now, in Palestine right now, as we see every day on TV, we as human should come out and speak. Forget about religion and culture and country. As human, we should stand up against the genocide that Israel is killing kids every single day. We're having a rally. Please come. Join us, a peaceful rally in Ozone Park, Liberty at 101st Avenue and Drew Street. We will start at 1 p.m. this Sunday. Sunday, 29th, 2023 at 1 p.m. Mike Scala, I would love to see you there. Brother Jay, if you're in the country, please join us. And thank you, Mike Scala. You are a leader in the community. We have learned so much from you. We want to work with you. We want to extend you to our community, and let's make changes every day. It doesn't matter if I'm Bengali or Italian, somebody else is Black, Hispanic. First and foremost, we're human at first. Let's come. If we have differences, we will have differences. That's okay. Let's sit down at the table and let's come together and break those differences and make changes in daily lives as we can. Thank you, Jay, and thank you, Attorney Scala, for bringing me here tonight.
Thank you, Khairul. I think, Jay, that sounded like the bottom line and then some from Khairul.
It sounded like it. You preempted our prompt here, because at the end of the show, we give the guests what we call the bottom line, where they can kind of sum up what we talked about here today, or what they filled or they want people to leave with. And it sounded like you got to it before we even got to it. So I think it works.
I'm sorry, man.
No, it's absolutely fine. It's great, and things like that need to be said. About working together and having cross communities and everybody working together for a common good. And I think it's a beautiful thing. So for people, I guess I'll let people know where they can find us. As some people know, we are on YouTube. This video goes up onto our YouTube channel at Nuance Show. We're on Instagram at Nuance Show. The audio, the podcast version, is everywhere podcasts can be found. So Spotify, Amazon, Apple, YouTube podcasts, I know. And so subscribe, check us out, leave comments, leave supporting messages, hate messages, whatever it is. Just get involved in the dialogue and participate in having a nuanced conversation, because that's really what we need to do is encourage more communication.
Yes, absolutely. As always, we've got work to do. Thank you, Khairul. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, everyone out there. We'll catch you next week. Good night, guys.
Good night, guys. Ciao.